that comes pre-bundled with those two. So it's I'm sure available to other Infor products. I'm just wondering what kind of what's a ROM on something like that.
So honestly speaking, Andy, based on our experience, what we have seen in the industries, even if you are going to get the pre-baked integration from a vendor, depending upon how aligned your data is, and typically that's all over the place, 99% of our customers agree with this statement that their data is the biggest problem.
Growing a business requires a holistic approach that extends beyond sales and marketing. This approach needs alignment among people, processes, and technologies. So if you're a business owner, operations, or finance leader looking to learn growth strategies from your peers and competitors, you're tuned into the right podcast. Welcome to the WBS Podcast, where scalable growth using business systems is our #1 priority. Now, here is your host, Sam Gupta.
Hello everyone, welcome to today's show. And if you are joining for the first time, this is part of our industry for which we meet every Tuesday at 5:30 p.m. Eastern. We review one vendor or the solution. And for today, we have a very exciting solution Infor Nexus. So we are going to have a lot of fun discussing that. Before we do that, we are going to start with everybody's intros. I am going to start with my quick intro, Sam Gupta, principal at Elevate IQ. Elevate IQ is the independent ERP and digital transformation consulting firm. On that note, I am going to move to Andy for his intro.
Well, thank you for inviting me, Sam. My name is Andy Pratico. I've been involved with ERP software for manufacturers all my life, and I also help people uncover the truth about ERP systems. Had a webinar last week, which was nice, and I have a published book. And then if anyone has any questions in those regards, I'm always happy to provide some advice. Thank you very much, Sam.
Amazing. Thank you so much for being so kind and being here, Andy. So now we'll start with the briefing, Andy, as we do, and I'm going to have a little slide for that. So overall, I guess in terms of the briefing and positioning of Infor Nexus, I know that we have reviewed a lot of similar platforms. So we have some background about that. I am going to touch on the layers that we have reviewed overall from the SNOP system perspective or the supply chain suite. And this would fall under that bucket. So one of the segmentation that we always have is going to be, okay, you have the ERP centric suites and you have supply chain centric suites. Okay. And typically their relevance is going to vary in different industries. Manufacturing obviously is going to care a lot more for the ERP suites, but and sometimes they are going to use supply chain suite. Sometimes they are not going to use supply chain suite, depending upon how their transactions are modeled, what their business model is. So the scope could vary based on the business model as well as transactions. So overall, when you look at Infor Nexus, obviously this is combined or bundled with a lot of different ERP suites from Infor. And I don't know where you sort of draw the line, because sometimes when you are going to look at solutions such as your Infor LN, Infor N3, these are the solutions that are going to have this bundled as part of the suite. For the most part, it's going to be optional bundle that you can probably buy if you like. You don't have to buy, but this is going to be part of the buckets that they have created. For example, let's say if you look at, Infor Cloud Suite, Automotive, or any of the industry cloud suites that you are seeing. So these are essentially kits. They are going to have one of the ERP systems, and they are going to have many different systems such as your WMS, TMS. The role of Infor Nexus is going to be to act as that supply chain suite. So a lot of supply chain components that you're going to find with the other supply chain suite, WMS, TMS, all of that now I think Infor is rolling under the Nexus side as well. But obviously inside Infor as well, there's a lot of overlap among solutions. So sometimes that could be confusing too in terms of which one falls where. But overall, if you compare this with the other supply chain solutions in the market, and the right comparable for this is going to be any other supply chain suite such as your E2 Open, Connexus, One Network Enterprises that we have already reviewed. From the SNOP perspective, you are going to have something like QAD, which is probably the closest comparison in general, because the construction of QAD is very similar to how Infor approaches their market. IQMS probably going to be the second closest comparison in general, because the way their suites are constructed, they take slightly more ERP, I would say CAD PLM centric perspective, and which is very manufacturing perspective. And obviously, these solutions are targeting manufacturers a lot more than the other solutions that we have on the list. For example, let's say if you look at systems such as your O9 solutions, OMP. Overall, when you look at Infor Nexus, the functionality perspective, if you look at the core layers of supply chain suite, which is going to be your network, planning, as well as execution. Okay. Now, in terms of execution, and from the supply chain perspective, the execution component that you are going to have are going to be your WMS, TMS, OMS, a sort of plugin for POS. Sometimes that could be part of your supply chain suite as well. So that is the execution component. The entire ERP suite, obviously, that is going to be execution as well. But right now, we are simply looking at this more from the supply chain suite lenses. So among those buckets, most of the solutions are going to have either one of three. Sometimes they are going to have all of three, depending upon how the suite is constructed. For Infor Nexus, you are looking at network as well as SNOP component. Those are two areas that it is really strong at. It is also going to be really strong at the international supplier collaboration. And generally, when you look at verticals such as your automotive, aerospace, to some extent, you cannot run business unless you have the international supplier collaboration component sort of embedded as part of your workflows. When you look at the smaller automotive suppliers, OEMs, they might use a lot of add-ons with the smaller systems, but for the most part, this is really their bread and butter. They cannot run their production if they don't have end-to-end visibility in their supply chain. That's where Infor Nexus plays a very heavy role. But the only thing that it is going to have as part of its suite is going to be network plus planning component. It has a little bit of execution component, but for the most part, the WMS component sort of plays that execution role, but it is not going to be as rich as your E2 Opens of the world, or I would say Blue Yonder is probably the second richest suite that we have from the supply chain perspective. But again, Blue Yonder, they are sort of in manufacturing, but they are not necessarily in manufacturing. They have some logos, but again, depending upon the business model, sometimes that could be relevant. But for the most part, their target market is really. Andy, any comments before I move on? No.
No.
Okay, so overall, from the background perspective, I guess this was an acquisition. Infor acquired it. Infor acquired many different components, and they are trying to create a suite. So sometimes people argue, okay, where do you draw the line between ERP versus best of breed component? So this would fall under more of the best of breed component. But obviously, this is going to be pre-integrated as part of the suite offered by your OEM. So for the most part, you are not worrying about the integration. You still need to vet those workflows. They need to be consistent with your data as well as processes. So you still need to do that, but at least you are getting something pre-integrated directly from the OEM. So you are not dealing with as many vendors in general. Yeah, and the verticals where it is going to be the most relevant, I would say, is probably going to be automotive, aerospace, apparel is the supplier collaboration component is huge. M3 solution really specializes on that. And if you don't have that, you are really going to struggle in that space. It's very, 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 very complex vertical in general. Chemical is a very, very complex vertical as well. So that's where you have role of this particular solution there. One of the key distinction, I guess, when you look at the other solutions, I guess they are going to be really strong at that international supply chain from the TMS perspective, which is probably not going to be focus of Nexus solution. So that is probably a differentiator when you compare this with, let's say, for example, E2 Open or Blue Yonder. That's probably going to be a differentiator. Then in my mind, when you look at the supply chain suite, so there are going to be two verticals which are going to be super relevant, which is manufacturing and retail. The way retail works is very different from manufacturing. So again, here, the perspective that Infor Nexus takes is very manufacturing centric. Again, the architecture that you require for manufacturing is very, 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 very different. Some terms such as your multi-party, multi-BOM collaboration, across your international supply chain that we had seen with a lot of different solutions. For example, let's say if you go back to your one network enterprises, or if you go to overhaul, I guess in those solutions, Andy, I don't know whether you recall or not, we had seen this whole multi-party bomb, which is going to be far bigger bomb than any bombs that you are going to have inside your four walls of your factory. Typically, this you are looking at the international level. How many ever different suppliers are going to be involved in that bomb? How many ever containers you are going to have? All of those are going to be part of your transaction. So that's the intent here of the solution. This is not really the ERP boundary. This is going to be slightly more international transaction, international collaboration is what we are looking at. They don't necessarily have their own carrier data. So overall, when you look at their network, even though everybody is going to say that they are probably one of the strongest supply chain network, but for the most part, their network is limited to the suppliers, meaning the suppliers that are providing goods, not necessarily the transportation suppliers. And that's why these guys have relationships with a lot of different carrier-centric network. And the right example there are going to be companies such as your Project 44, Four Kites. Those are the carrier-centric network. They are designed more from the TMS transportation logistics perspective. So Infor Nexus is going to use that data because you need that data to be able to complete your supply chain equation. You need that for your control tower capabilities, that you need that for your end-to-end traceability, but they don't necessarily own that data. So obviously there are going to be some risks with that. With other solutions, when you look at solutions such as your E2 Open, they are going to have all of that data. So obviously they are slightly stronger in their capabilities compared to your Infor Nexus if you simply compare supply chain suite.
You mentioned that Nexus is bundled with LN and M3. Those are two of the larger products from Infor. Do you have any idea what it costs for Nexus to integrate to some of their other products like Cloud Suite?
So you are asking a question, okay, how much is it going to cost to integrate?
Well, you mentioned that it comes pre-bundled with those two.
Yeah.
So it's I'm sure available to other Infor products. I'm just wondering what kind of what's a ROM on something like that?
So honestly speaking, Andy, based on our experience, what we have seen in the industries, even if you are going to get the pre-baked integration from a vendor, depending upon how aligned your data is, and typically that's all over the place, 99% of our customers agree with this statement that their data is the biggest problem. Okay, and their data typically drives everything. So if their data is going to be all over the place, no integration in the world is going to work for you. So it doesn't matter who's providing you that, but then tailoring that to your data, to your processes would require a lot of effort, even if you are getting pre-baked integration. But to answer your question, how much is it going to cost? Okay, the question is going to be, okay, what are you trying to accomplish? From that integration, how many different integration flows do you have? How much manpower are we talking about to be able to develop and test? And obviously my SaaS colleagues are going to argue that, hey, this is 5-minute job. Any software can be integrated in 5 minutes. They have no clue, how integration is, to be completely honest. Okay, so integration is a very complex problem. You need to align your master data. You need to align your data. You need to define your workflows, and you need to make sure that this is going to be the end-to-end process. And so that's where I guess the major, differences. So we are getting some comments here, Andy. So let's review them, I guess. And the comments are coming from Jessica. Interesting comment there. So Jessica Reed, and I don't know, I don't recognize her name, Andy. I don't know if you recognize her name. Nexus is an independent solution from Infor ERPs. We are ERP agnostic. I'm not sure if this is a confusion between name, because I know that there are several Nexus solutions in the market that are named Nexus. But the one that we are reviewing right now is owned by Infor, as far as my understanding goes, Andy. Unless they have sold yesterday, that could be a possibility. But as far as our understanding goes, it's definitely bundled as part of Infor OS.
But maybe what Jessica is suggesting is that Nexus can be bundled with products outside of Infor as well.
So Nexus is an independent solution. So I don't know if Jessica, I don't know if you're able to check if Jessica is from Infor, obviously. Okay, so she's saying that she works at Infor. Yeah. So Jessica, thank you so much for joining. So obviously, I completely agree with you that you are saying that you are independent and you can work with any of the ERPs. but our understanding based on your marketing material, and unless that is changed, okay, this is bundled as part of your LN and M3 suite. Now you can work with any of the ERPs. You might be positioning yourself as independent, but that is definitely bundled, and that integration is going to be available from Infor. That is our understanding. If that's changed, obviously we can look into that, and please provide your commentary. Yes, you are saying that you can work with all of the ERPs. I don't know if you have pre-baked integration for all of those. Last time we checked, it wasn't there, but we are happy to review again. Infor Nexus has a huge retail customer base. That is right. She's absolutely right. Nexus is not bundled with any additional Infor products out of the box. It is a standalone product. Okay, interesting commentary. That was not our understanding. No confusion. I work at Infor and under Infor Nexus. So again, our understanding is that this is sold as part of the bucket.
Well, if
we understand that those are going to be separate business units, but your reps are carrying these solutions. That's our understanding, and they are bundled as part of the kit. That is our understanding. Yes, you are going to have separate business units, and this is very true with a lot of different businesses that when they acquire these solutions, these business units can run independently. But again, it is part of the Infor umbrella, and that is our understanding. Thank you so much, Jessica, for joining.
Thank you so much, Jessica.
Yeah. Okay. So here, this slide, I think we had reviewed this during the E2 Opens session as well. And this is coming from E2 Open. This is how they have positioned their solution, and it is true as well, based on our understanding of the market. So here, one of the things that you're going to notice is they have positioned Infor between your planning as well as your network, and which is going to be very similar positioning as Connexus, because Connexus has acquired a network as well, and that's how they got those capabilities. I believe the name is MPO. So that's why Infor and Connexus are probably going to have very similar capabilities as well as positioning in the market at this point of time. And then obviously the other solutions that we have, for example, let's say if you look at Anaplan, Coupa, Dassault 09, these are primarily planning solutions. Sometimes they are going to have the connected planning. For example, when we reviewed Anaplan, that was true with Anaplan. The other solutions, SNOP solutions that we have, they typically don't cover FP&A, so FP&A is going to be silent. Okay, so I don't know if I have anything else to hit on this, Andy. So here we have some more points. Most planning or execution vendors lack a network, which is true as well. There are very, very, very few systems that have a real network. Obviously, Infor Nexus is one of them. And the quadrants that rank Gartner, for the most part, I mean, they rank this, and this is coming from E2 Open. So E2 Open is ranked in supply chain planning, transportation management systems, multi-enterprise supply chain business networks. So if you review Gartner quadrants, then you are most likely going to find Infor Nexus inside your supply chain planning. It might not be there inside your transportation management system, but it is most likely going to be there in your multi-enterprise supply chain business network. Okay, so we have some more points here. So Jessica is agreeing with our assessment. Thank you so much, Jessica, once again. Okay, we have Binay, and he is saying, Sam, such a
no question.
His word says how much it takes to make it work. Yes, you are absolutely right. Okay, so moving right along, unless Andy, you have any other comments?
No.
Okay, so here we have one quadrant that we'll review in a minute. Before let's cover these comments. So here, this is the commentary coming most likely from news. So here they are saying Nexus supply chain management allows buyers to share and collaborate with multiple tiers of suppliers on plans, forecasts, and commitments on the network, improving responsiveness to dynamic demand. With faster collaboration and automated alerts, companies can proactively balance supply and demand to improve on-time delivery rates and reduce cycle times while simultaneously reducing inventory costs. So some layers there that you might need to pay attention in general. So when they are talking about on-time delivery, obviously you are going to find this pitch inside your carrier network as well. It is the exact same pitch. Okay, whether you are talking about carrier network or you are talking about supplier network. So here, obviously, this is going to be your complete supply chain equation. There, they are simply talking about carrier. So that is something you need to pay attention. They both are contributing to improve your on-time delivery. But when you look at the real on-time delivery, the major contributor is going to be your carrier network, which Infor Nexus does not own, even though it is part of the marketing. Just clarifying, I mean, there is nothing fundamentally wrong about the pitch, but just some points that you need to pay attention to. The overall description, if you pay attention, it's coming across as very network plus planning component. It is not, that's how it is reading. And this is very similar trend that we have seen with the other systems as well. Now, when you look at the description of the functionality, multi-party, multi-tier collaboration, it's very, very, very consistent with how systems such as your One Network enterprises, they were describing, or any other network, the way they would describe. There are going to be a lot of networks. They are not going to be truly international, multi-party, multi-tier, but they also call themselves as network. So you need to pay attention to how they are positioning. But when you look at the international supply chain capabilities, international supplier collaboration, that's where your multi-party, multi-tier capability is going to be super critical. Multi-level information sharing and collaboration. And again, there are a lot of supplier collaboration platforms in the market, but they don't necessarily have the international capabilities. These are very different capabilities in general. So if you have international presence and you need to collaborate with your international suppliers, that's where these international capabilities are going to be super relevant. We'll be touching on the specific aspects of those capabilities, how they differ, and how what we have seen with the other systems. So just hang in there with us. Now we have early notice of supply demand misalignment. That's very, very, very similar pitch as any other supply chain suites. Track forecast and order performance, supplier packaging, labeling, and ASN automation. Very, very, very similar pitch that we have seen with the other solutions. Now, some of the latest enhancement announcement. So these guys are talking about enhanced visibility to the first mile of international transportation. Now, one note that you might want to pay attention to, I don't know how many listeners are going to be familiar with the whole concept of first mile. And this is the same term that is used by some of the other supplier collaboration platforms. For example, one of the examples is SourceDay, is another supplier collaboration platform, but their capabilities are going to be limited to domestic collaboration, which is going to be in the US. They don't necessarily have all of those bells and whistles that are going to be relevant for your international supplier collaboration, which is going to be your custom invoicing, collaboration with your freight brokers. These are very different capabilities, but overall, the first mile of international transportation is the right term to describe their capabilities. This is not as meaningful, I would say. No event, direction alerts and situations. Embedded operational analytic dashboard, again, not meaningful. Expanded network-wide data quality monitoring and issue detection. Very similar verbiage as your control tower capability in my mind. Introduced harbor dwell analytics to mitigate disruptions. Again, not as meaningful, so I'm going to skip that. No, that's it on this. Now, this is coming from Nucleus. They rank a lot of different capabilities. Number one, this is recent. It's coming from 2023. And then this is for control tower capabilities. And sometimes these capabilities are going to be very specific to one feature set because they are really trying to rank these solutions on that capability. So this is really for control tower. So here, Infor is probably going to be on the right side, and typically that's what is going to have a lot of functionality as well as usability. But for the most part, I guess here, if you look at the control tower capabilities, in my mind, depending upon what you are trying to accomplish using control tower, if you're looking for end-to-end traceability, Infor Nexus does not own the complete equation from the supply chain perspective. So your visibility is not going to be as strong as some of the other solutions in the market. For example, let's say if you look at Blue Yonder E2 Open, but depending upon which visibility are we talking about, and we don't know how many different variables they have used here. Are they looking at more from the manufacturing perspective? Because sometimes there could be layers in that too. So you might want to read between the lines. One Network Enterprises did have one of the strongest control tower capabilities. They had one of the strongest multi-tier, multi-supplier collaboration. So they are probably leader in that, at least as per Nucleus, I guess. But overall, in my mind, I would think that Blue Yonder is going to be really strong. E2 Open is going to be really strong. Nexus is probably going to be really strong. One Network Enterprise is going to be really strong, but their network is not as strong as some of the other players on this list. The strongest network is probably going to be E2 Open, but they don't rank as high for whatever reason on Nucleus. So there's some layers there that you might want to pay attention. Now, you have some.
Any idea why Infor is scoring as well as it is on this quadrant?
There are always layers, Andy. It's very hard to comment unless we have the variables that they have used in the analysis, to be completely honest.
Sure, I understand.
Yeah, but overall, Infor does have network. I mean, there are very few players in the market that really own the network from the supplier perspective. So Infor does have, network. E2 Open has network. Blue Yonder does not have network. Okay, Blue Yonder uses somebody else's network. Nexus does have network, but the network is not as strong. You look at, I mean, now they have positioned Coupa here, and I don't know why Coupa is here, to be completely honest.
Yeah, it's interesting choice, eh?
Right. I mean, Coupa does have a little bit of supply chain traceability capability, but they are going to have more from the spend management perspective. It's not the complete control tower, and probably they are looking at, okay, what fraction of control tower does everybody have? And based on that, they must have ranked. So it's always hard to read the quadrants unless you really know what you are doing.
Right. There's so many levels of how they score. It's never one thing.
Yeah. We have one more comment. We actually have one of the most comprehensive and robust control tower available, origin to destination, live visibility. Great sales pitch, Jessica, but we look at a lot more than, the sales pitch. Love the sales pitch though.
Thank you, Jessica.
Thank you, Jessica. Okay, so here, this is another, release coming from 2022. So we have, this is the collaboration that they are talking about. So here they have the Infor, the industry cloud company, today announced that it has entered into a technology partnership with Everstream Analytics, the global supply chain insights and risk analytics company. So again, the risk component, I guess we have reviewed probably only with one solution. And I don't recall, Andy, I don't know if you recall or not. I think risk was really heavy, I believe, with overhaul or one network. My head is leading towards overhaul. They were really strong. They were talking about risk GPT capabilities. They were really, really strong in that. So now, obviously, Infor Nexus is trying to do that. And again, this is in 2022. So every single vendor out there is trying to incorporate risk capabilities. That's a need for the suite. So here they are talking about supply chain risks and disruptions. But again, this is the partnership. So they don't have those capabilities, themselves. It's a partnership. Just a minor layer there that you need to pay attention to. Okay, they are saying end-to-end supply chain control tower. In our mind, the equation is not complete. There are a stronger control tower available in the market. So this is not necessarily going to be end-to-end, but sure. Then they are talking about Everstream's solution will complement these capabilities by providing data on external events such as weather. And again, these are the capabilities that we have reviewed with those solutions. They typically utilize this data: labor spikes, port congestion, cybersecurity, ESG, all of those capabilities that we have reviewed with the other solutions as well. Provide customers with a single supply chain control tower that provides end-to-end visibility and predictive alerts to numerous supply chain events. Again, everybody's going to have the same sales pitch. Some more commentary here. Comprehensive capability from source to deliver and pay. Now, this is a very similar pitch that we are going to see with solutions such as your source day. But again, the real differentiator here is that international versus domestic supply chain. So pay attention to that. Multi-source data and process harmonization for shared visibility and analytics. So this whole multi-source data is where the real play is. And that's the real depth and capabilities that I don't think I have personally seen with any of these solutions. So here we are talking about real supplier collaboration at the international level. Obviously, you are going to have solutions such as your QAD. They are going to have these capabilities. You are going to have IQMS. They are going to have those capabilities because they are playing in very similar markets. Okay, I don't have anything else here. Andy, if you have any other comment, I can take those or move on to the next one.
Really a dumb question. Why is it called control tower?
Why is it called control tower? That's a great question. So control tower, my understanding is that is the term coming from your, space station when you launch your rocket, I guess. That's where they have the control and command center, I believe. Okay. So every single department is going to have a control tower. Now, if you ask a supply chain guy, they are going to say the only control tower matters is supply chain. Okay, but that's not true at all. Okay, in the market right now, you have a lot more control towers. Operations guys, they have created their own control tower. Industry 4.0 guys, they have their own control tower. If you ask the CFO, they are going to have their own control. So control tower is nothing but a dashboard, for the most part, where you can review your entire operations as well as maybe take some actions. But for the most part, it's supposed to be more of the visibility platform. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Sam.
Okay, so we have one more comment. Again, thank you so much, Jessica, for that. So comprehensive, live. Yeah, again, sales page. Thank you. Love it.
Thank you,
Okay.
Jessica.
So some more comments here. Multi-party connectivity, connect all supply chain parties on a single instance. Multi-party enterprise business network. Again, very, very, very similar pitch as any other multi-party platforms. So I don't really have much to add there. Yeah, I mean, this is very consistent with what we have reviewed so far. I'm not seeing anything that we need to touch. For the most part, this is really the network as well as the visibility platform is what it is. Then we have Infor Nexus supply management. And I think this is very similar to what we have already touched on a lot of different points. The only thing that I would like to touch is multi-tier inventory visibility. Now, this could be tricky to read when you say multi-tier inventory visibility. This is really visibility more from the supply chain perspective. It's not the real inventory. This is going to be how your inventory is moving through your international supply chain. So there is a layer there, and you might want to be careful when you are reading this. Okay, Infor Nexus global freight management is a very interesting capability that we have seen with the solutions that are going to have the global freight capabilities, but it does not necessarily have the full-blown TMS that you are going to find with some of the other solutions. So here you just have the freight capabilities more from the supplier collaboration perspective. So here they are talking about Infor's network transportation solution helps large enterprises manage complex international supply chain flows to optimize both freight spend. So freight spend is the term, and here they are able to do the freight reconciliation, freight payments. And again, that capability also gets very deep in general, but that is only limited to your supplier collaboration workflows. That is what is happening here. Then you have the shipping performance going beyond conventional TMS limitations with true multi-leg, multi-mode, and multi-stop capability. So again, this is more from the supplier collaboration perspective. This is not you would require a TMS solution, if you're using something like this. But most likely, sometimes TMS systems have the supplier collaboration capabilities from the international perspective. Sometimes they don't. So you might need to use both. But this is not the true execution platform from the TMS perspective. Global control tower architecture, ocean, truck, air truck parcel visibility. Again, that is more from the supplier collaboration perspective. Global planning, optimization, execution, multi-leg, multi-party, multi-stop. All of that is really from that supplier collaboration as well as from visibility perspective. Collaborate with forwarders and 3PLs. This collaboration is going to be primarily from the supplier collaboration perspective, not necessarily the capabilities that you are going to find inside the real TMS. Some of the things that we want to head. So obviously, this is how the order is going to look, but I mean, this perspective is very different. This is not your traditional orders inside your either your ERP system or your supply chain suite, because the perspective is very different. Here, the way this order is going to be, this is really for that international supplier collaboration. That's how this perspective is. So this is what you are going to find with the other supplier collaboration platform. And this is the order where you are going to have multiple parties that are going to be collaborating. They are going to have their payment workflows. They are going to have their reconciliation workflows, but this is not meant to be your ERP order or order in any other system. So there are layers there always. And that's why we have things such as your order layout, line layout, flat layout. You have, again, if you pay attention to how this screen is laid out, then you would be able to understand what is going on here. And this is where you're going to find a lot of layers from the international supplier collaboration perspective. So for example, let's say if you look at the other solutions that are not going to have the international capabilities, most likely they are not going to have things such as your input terms. They don't really get into all of that. They are simply going to be doing this at the PO statuses level, PO collaboration level, but they don't necessarily get into the international, global freight management. They don't get into the global reconciliation, payment workflows. They don't get into all of that. They might do payments just with the domestic suppliers, but those capabilities are very limited. This is for international collaboration. And if you pay attention, you have a mode here, and that's why the mode is present on the order. So the mode is going to be things such as your ocean, rail, air, because you need to have all of those lines, however that order or the workflow might be constructed. So this is the humongous multi-party order, a very similar order what we had seen with systems such as your One Network Enterprises. Overall, I guess they have these capabilities. This is the invoice sample coming from YouTube, I believe. So in this particular case, again, this is a very cross-border full service transaction. So when you look at the invoice, you need to pay attention to what kind of invoice this is, because there are going to be thousands of invoices in an organization. This is really that cross-border transaction is what they are talking about, and this is the place for this particular solution. So you are going to have things such as your, when you look at scenarios such as your proof of delivery at the international level, the importance of that is going to be far more critical. So architecturally speaking, where should you have your proof of delivery? Most likely this platform is going to be a superior candidate. Okay, so everybody's going to claim that they have proof of delivery. But then you are most likely going to be using these capabilities only from one system. In general, this is going to reside inside your TMS if you have TMS as part of your architecture, or it is going to reside in a platform like this if you have that workflow, in your model. But again, this is not necessarily designed for your DST transactions. That is a very different process as well as workflow. So even though the terms might be similar, you might use proof of delivery there as well. But here the intent is the supplier collaboration more from the manufacturing perspective at the international level. That's what we are trying to do. And then obviously you have the things such as your overages, you have the adjustment amount. So you are going to have a lot of different adjustments as well in this. So the financial workflows, they become very involved, very complex. In a lot of cases, companies are going to manage all of this in a spreadsheet. So obviously a platform like this can add substantial value. But again, whatever you are doing here, this is not necessarily related to your ERP. It's sort of, adjacent to it. Okay. I don't have anything else here. So this one is the custom commercial invoice. And in this particular case, if you compare this with other supplier collaboration platforms in the market that are going to be really small in size, they don't necessarily have these capabilities. Here, you are going to have at least 4 or 5 or sometimes 10 or 15 different parties involved in that transaction, and they all need to be identified there in terms of who is playing what role. And again, these capabilities are going to be relevant when you are dealing with international transaction, because you need to identify those. So again, very, 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 very different workflow, very different process in general. So again, when you look at the international supplier collaboration, there are going to be very few platforms in the market that are going to have these capabilities. Andy, any comments?
No.
Okay. So here we have now obviously every single vendor out there in the market is going to argue that they have end-to-end supply chain visibility. So that's exactly what even Infor is going to do. But what kind of visibility you are getting is the question. So here, obviously, in this particular case, you are looking at the shortages, and then you are going to look at the factory level in every single DC. You are looking at how your materials are moving. But again, that is going to be more from the perspective of your international supply chain, how your material flows are going to be. If you're hosting those processes inside this system, then you are going to have visibility. If you're not, obviously you're not going to have that. You have a little bit of quality workflows. Now that could be all over the place from the architecture perspective. If you are using systems such as this for your quality, now where are you performing that quality is the question. And again, if this is going to be more of the international transaction, you are not hosting this inside your ERP. There could be layers there as well. So you need to pay attention to where those transactions are going to be performed in whatever architecture that you are trying to create for you. Okay. Again, I think the overarching picture that you are going to get, so this is really the planner's workbench. And in this, I want to qualify the planner that you are talking about is going to be slightly more supply chain planner, because there could be so many different planners in the organization as well. Okay, so this is not necessarily your manufacturing workload. This is really your international supply chain. So the planners that you are going to have are going to have very different responsibilities. The things that they care for are going to be very different as well. So here, what you are looking at is their workflow. The whole international supply chain is what you are looking at, and any of the carriers are going to be involved in the transaction. You are going to have their workflow. Any of the outstanding dollar amounts, you are going to have visibility into that. You are going to have visibility based on modes as well. Now, this is going to be really hard to read, but I mean, sometimes when you take screenshots from your YouTube, you can only get so much, I guess, from there. But overall, when you look at this visibility, this is going to be your end-to-end international supply chain visibility. You're not getting anything more than that. So that is the point that I really want you all to pay attention to in general. And the shortages as well. Again, you are really looking at all of those workflows that you have seen with any other supply chain suite solutions in the market. There's very, very, very similar capability. Now, one of the things that I don't think we have found with the majority of the solutions that we have reviewed is the contractual workflow. And now this contractual process could be very involved as well. Sometimes this process, and Andy, I don't know what you have seen in your experience, but in general, this could reside in many different places. Okay, so these contract capabilities, they are going to be part of your CLM component. Sometimes they are going to be part of your P2P component. So how your P2P is going to talk to this could be a question, but these contracts could be very involved and nuanced as well, because they are going to drive your reconciliation process. Reconciliation, again, when we talk about reconciliation, we are talking about multi-party reconciliation. This is a very, very, very different reconciliation that you are going to do with any other systems. So here you are looking at, okay, how many different parties are involved in that transaction and what is going to be the contract. So that's what you are tracking here. Okay, now we'll look at some of the reviews. So 618, so I think we can cover some reviews here. Andy, I don't know if you have any comments. No, move on. So here, this comment is coming from 2022. This industry is consumer goods. 1 billion to 3 billion USD in firm size. So for the most part,
but it doesn't say the name of the company in this comment.
No, we don't care for all of that.
Yeah, right. Okay.
Yeah. So for us, what matters is which industry, what is the target customer profile is what we generally review. So in this particular case, I mean, this is probably the right place, right customer. For the most part, Infor Nexus is going to be used by very upper mid-market centric companies, which are going to be probably, I don't know, maybe $200 to $250 million and up. So in this particular case, they are 1 billion plus to $3 billion USD. So that's probably the right place for them. They went live in 2015, so they have been using this for a while. This review is coming from 2022. The comparable that they had evaluated is OpenText and Logility. Now, OpenText may not be the right comparison. Okay, so the way OpenText is designed, it's more of the document collaboration platform. It's not necessarily your supply chain network and supply chain collaboration platform. They might have some of those capabilities, but that is not how or what OpenText really does. Logility is going to be an SNOP platform, but they are not going to have network. Okay, that's really the visibility platform. So if you're looking for network plus visibility, then you need to look at Infor Nexus. If you're looking for a standalone SNOP platform, that's where Logility is really good. And then OpenText is going to be more from the document collaboration, document content management. They might have the network there as well, but that network is very different, very, very, very different. So here they are talking about Infor team has always come to the table as a true partner, focusing their team's expertise and systems functionality on enabling us to achieve our business goals. Great. Tracking, downtime, financing, and payments. Now that's a big deal, guys. So I'm going to reread this. So here they are talking about the Infor products we use helped us streamline and automate our vendor purchasing and negotiations, product shipping and tracking, and downstream financing and payments. Guys, downstream financing and payments, that's a very, very, very involved process in general, and they are able to do that using this platform. In 80% of the cases, in my personal experience, most of the companies are probably going to use this or track this inside a spreadsheet. In general, that's how most of the customers are. But obviously, when you are going to be at 1 billion, 3 billion level, then you need a system for that as well. So that's a very specific capability. So they are talking about the factor partners. factor partners, and these are going to be your factoring partners. And I believe SAP acquired capability from the trade finance perspective. I don't know how strong they were. And Andy, I don't know if you remember the name of the acquisition. I believe it's called Truly. They were into the working capital space, and they were doing some of the trade finance as well. So I'm not too sure if that is going to be comparable, but trade finance as well as factoring and reconciliation is not an easy capability. This is a very, very, very advanced, mature capability. And if you're looking for that, obviously, this is probably going to be a platform that you should be looking at. From supplier collaboration to payment financing, the platform offering is very comprehensive and covers pretty much every area of the supply value chain that an organization could need. They have used a term called unified order. You are going to hear this term at a lot of different places, but here the unified order is going to be more from the supplier collaboration perspective. So pay attention to that. Some more reviews. This is again coming from construction. Construction has very involved supply chain as well. This is also a very large organization. This is $30 billion and plus. 2021, so fairly recent, and they have been live since 2010. So now what are they saying? They are saying one central place for visibility and EDI connection to our ocean and air service providers. So they have done a little bit of EDI. So this is where I guess some companies might be getting confused between OpenText as well as this platform. OpenText that does a lot of EDI workflows. So when you're looking for that collaboration capabilities, that's where OpenText is really, really good. So they have used for this, but here, I guess the main advantage is going to be the network that you have. The fact our current version does not support multi-leg transportation visibility. And again, I think the reason why it might not be supported is because, again, these guys don't necessarily have the real TMS. It's supposed to be more of the visibility platform. So if you're looking for that, then you probably need to get a TMS. The lack of TMS capabilities for international transportation. So the user has very clearly highlighted that. So a validation of what we were trying to say in our commentary. We could connect differently Nexus to our internal data lake, as this is the main complexity element, creates a high cost to change to their latest product. That integration, I can see there are going to be a lot of companies that are going to be connecting their data lake as well. So this is going to be your internal data, and then you are connecting Nexus with that. So that's a very interesting architecture. Okay, some more commentary that we would like to hit. So here they are saying the merger of two companies. I think this is a slightly older review. Trade Card and GT Nexus. So obviously Nexus grew through many different acquisitions as well. So these are, now people might not even remember that these companies exist. But the Trade Card and GT Nexus, so Trade Card most likely is going to be that supplier collaboration capability. Nexus is probably going to be network. So they got merged 6 to 7 years back, and they still haven't figured out a way for their solutions to work together seamlessly, or their teams to have expertise across both sides of the portfolio. For example, data entered into the TC side cannot be used seamlessly on the GTN store. So a purchase order may have data elements which cannot be analyzed or reported on when reviewing shipments. So these are the integration problems that we are talking about. And okay, even if you are going to talk to the same organization, they are going to have different business units. That Infor has commented just now that they are not a part, even though they are part of the same organization, but they are not part of the same organization. So that's how difficult it gets when you are dealing with one vendor, to be completely honest. And this is going to be a problem. So even though they are claiming in their marketing material that they are seamlessly integrated, they are part of one suite, you might want to vet that a little bit more, whether they can really talk seamlessly or not, even if it is printed in their marketing. All right, so I don't have anything else. Andy, comments?
Well, I thought it was quite interesting that Gartner had the Infor product so far up on the right-hand side. Usually when you have, obviously Infor, their focus is on their ERP products. And usually when you've got relative success in one area, you don't always have success in other areas. So that's interesting that they found the Nexus an attractive product.
Nexus is a very, very, very successful and a very strong product. There's no question about that. Before Infor acquired, it was wildly successful.
Oh, is that right? Okay.
It was widely successful. And that's why they have acquired, to be completely honest. Right now, if you look at the market, the way ERP market is structured, everybody's trying to get as many capabilities they can have and they can sell as integrated suite. So even though they haven't been able to integrate, I guess, their own functions, and that we are hearing directly from Infor right now, to be completely honest. But the intent is to operate as one solution, one organization. That is the original intent. But acquisitions, they never go well, I guess. And in the marketing material, you are going to say,
require a lot of work. Let's put it that way.
Exactly. And you have politics as well, right? I mean, that's part of it.
Totally.
So obviously, I mean, that is going to be a challenge. Andy, more comments?
No, that's it for today, Sam. Thank you so much.
Of course. So I think that's it for the show. So if you joined for the first time, this was part of our industry series for which we meet every Tuesday at 5:30 p.m. Eastern. So make sure you guys are going to be here next week. We are going to come back with another vendor or the solution. On that note, thanks everyone for tuning in tonight.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the WBS Podcast. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform so you never miss an episode. For more information on growth strategies for SMBs using ERP and digital transformation, check out our community at WBS.rocks. We'll see you next time.